Today on CityCast Nashville, we're talking about Nashville's EDM scene. You might not know we have one, but we do. John Hanna, co-founder of this weekend's Deep Tropics Music Festival, joins me to explain why it's thriving. Plus, we'll learn how Deep Tropics is leading the way as one of the most sustainable music festivals in the country. It's Tuesday, August 12th. I'm your producer, Daniel Sumstein, and this is what Nashville's talking about. I want to start by dispelling some of the myths and stereotypes around EDM. Is it all about taking drugs and noodle dancing with glow sticks? I feel like some people just think of it as that scene in the club in The Matrix where people are like underground.
Well, I will say that those scenes do exist in the world, but contrary to popular belief, that's not the whole thing. Where electronic music, like back in the 80s, became popular, it was surrounding passion for music. And over time, that's been maintained. And there is like a large group of people out there that do go to clubs that maybe that atmosphere can be crazy at times, but go to the club for the music and for the environment and for the connection with people that's found in those spaces.
And then for listeners who are like completely new to this scene, can you break down what EDM actually stands for and what it means?
So it stands for electronic dance music. And I think it's been kind of a catch-all term that has become popular over the last maybe 10, 15 years. Electronic music is incredibly well organized with hundreds of subgenres that are partially location-based, partially are tempo-based, partially vibe-based. But call it an EDM purist, if I'm going to an EDM show, that's a catch-all for I'm going to a house music event, a techno event, a dubstep event, drum and bass. And there's like even a whole nother set of subgenres underneath that. Started in different places. You know, surprisingly for house and techno, it started in Chicago and Detroit. When I really got into it, I had heard it on the radio growing up in Cleveland, different house and techno tracks that would make it on the radio. But when I was in high school, English dubstep was getting popular. And I say English dubstep because it's much different than the Americanized version of dubstep that Skrillex kind of pioneered. My friend who was living down in Orlando told me about this guy, Rusko, who was starting to do tours over here and has since become mega famous in the EDM space. And he was like, man, you got to check out this music. It is like nothing I've ever heard before. And dubstep, for those of you who haven't heard it, I mean, it sounds like it's from another planet. If you've been listening to like indie or blues or, whatever. So when I first heard it was mind blowing. I had been producing and recording a lot of hip hop stuff, and it was at a similar tempo that a lot of common rap stuff is at. But then it's using these synthesizers in a way that I'd never heard before, and I was floored, and I was instantly hooked. And that probably started this, 16, 17 year journey that I've been on in production and starting events and all these different things. So.
And it's also found its way into like really mainstream arenas. Like you hear a lot of EDM pop nowadays. Just for our listeners, like what's a popular radio version of EDM that almost anyone would recognize?
A couple people that come to mind. Calvin Harris has been around for a while. He's had a bunch of hits that have gone just top 10 Billboard. Zed has been around for a while. I'm trying to think of individual tracks that...
Like The Middle.
Yeah.
Middle was massive.
Yeah, totally. Thinking about like Kesha, Rihanna, there's been these pop artists that have kind of taken on a lot of the trends that are happening in EDM and packaged them in a palatable way for pop music. But oftentimes it's used as production for those big pop artists rather than the DJs.
Our executive producer, Whitney, wants to know, is Moby EDM?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he'd be like one of the pioneers, right?
He really is. There's that Eminem track, Without Me, where he mentions Moby in it. Like, nobody listens to techno.
Like Moby.
Yeah, exactly. So he's been doing it for a bit and definitely like very well respected in the space.
I want to kind of circle back to you talking about your first connection with EDM. Similarly, I discovered it, probably 7 years ago, and I was immediately drawn to like the melody and rhythm of it. Nashville's traditional music scene is founded on the idea of three chords and the truth. When it comes to EDM music, do people emotionally connect with it in the same way that other folks might connect with the songwriter and a guitar?
All right, there's a couple different ways to go at this. And I think we should talk about both because there's almost a divide there. There's the listener that listens to EDM for the song. And I think for those people, it 100% applies. I think there's a large community of people that resonate with the messages and the stories that exist in those songs. And honestly, EDM producers and artists should probably take more note of how Nashville has thought about songwriting, because there's kind of room for that side of the EDM space to grow further. And again, it's coming from a place of making beats. So the beats are slowly growing into fully well-written songs. And it creates a really interesting ecosystem for Nashville, just as the popularity of electronic music grows, because there's such a vibrant community of songwriters here. If you sub out the painted on jeans and Bud Light for maybe glow sticks and some other substances
and noodle dancing.
yeah, exactly. That the extremely talented songwriting can be applied to that.
Got any fun trips coming up? One thing you probably haven't put on your packing list is learning the language. But with Babbel, you can start talking in just a few weeks. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel. And I also just persuaded my friend who's going to France this fall to learn French with Babbel, but that is another story. Babbel's extremely fun and intuitive. It's like having a private tutor in your pocket. Handcrafted by over 200 language experts, Babbel's lessons are voiced by real native speakers and built with science-backed cognitive tools and interactive features to fit any learning style. I love a lot of the different Babbel features. The Babbel games for sentence building, Babbel speech recognition, which helps me get the pronunciation right. And now I'm really into Babbel's word of the day, which greets me on the homepage of the app. Every day, a new word revealed like a little surprise with a sentence to help contextualize it. It's like a daily treat for me. Studies from Yale, Michigan State, and other leading universities continue to prove that Babbel works. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. Look, I want you to learn another language. So I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
I want to talk about Nashville's EDM scene overall. I know a lot of the big touring acts, they're always at like Marathon or Ascend, but what about local artists making waves here? Is there much of an EDM scene?
There is, and I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited about it because I've been, trying to grow the scene I guess I'm not trying to. I've been growing the scene here for about a decade now. My wife and I moved to Nashville about 13 years ago. I worked on Music Row. I had like a small mix space for about 2 or 3 years and did some country stuff, did some rock stuff, whatever. Like I said, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. So the country thing wasn't like, I don't know a ton about it. Since moving to Nashville, I've definitely become a lot more versed on the subject, but there's definitely people that are stronger in that space. So fun fact, I did do Kane Brown's first EP.
Oh, nice.
And that's the only country stuff I've done. I stepped out.
Like, did you produce it or write on it?
Yeah, I wrote 2 of the tracks, recorded and produced 2 of the tracks. And then My wife actually shot the cover art for it too. But I started a studio in 2017 over in East Nashville. And during that time, I had become really passionate about electronic music. I'd been DJing it for a little while at that time, and there wasn't really a platform to perform. There wasn't like obviously like a flourishing club scene here like there is in like other major markets. So that studio, we started to throw like boiler room style events that became this platform for local DJs. The party was called Prism. It started just kind of like late night after hours. Maybe there was like 50 people that showed up to the first one. And then by the end of it, like there was like 300 or 400 people. We had to like turn people away because there was such like a demand for it. During that time too, I met my business partner, Blake, who I ended up starting Deep Tropics with him and his twin brother, Joel. Thinking back to 2017 when the studio first started, I would say there was probably like 10 or 15 producer DJs that were like starting out doing their thing. There's now hundreds. There's like this tight knit community here, but then people are starting to like branch out and tour around the States, go over, play in Ibiza and stuff. And you're starting to see the signs of like a very passionate, talented scene that is kind of bubbling, ready to burst.
I keep hearing about The Office in East Nashville. Are you involved with them at all?
Yeah, we helped start it. Fun fact, I was the first DJ to play at The Office too.
Yeah.
Myself and Cruel Mistress, Lizzie's another incredible DJ locally. She has this Party Resonate that is definitely worth checking out if you're in Nashville. We were the first two DJs, and then one of the last DJs that we did before we went our separate ways with them was Diplo. So that was
dang.
That's how much it grew in those 2 years. And yeah, so The Office is still cruising. They're doing a lot of like techno, heavier dubstep stuff. It has like an industrial feel down in the basement of this building. So it does kind of lean into the Blade scene a bit that you referenced, opposed to other places like Night We Met or Harriet's. That's like a bit more upscale, like bottle service sort of vibe.
I mean, Nashville's a big transplant town. Ton of people move here. Is that part of what makes the EDM scene so unique?
Yeah, I think it's partially the influx of people, especially since COVID. Nashville's just been growing so rapidly that there's a bunch of people that are coming from New York, LA, Miami, even London, that are seeking out, a club environment, electronic music, that sort of thing. But the DNA and like the city of Nashville, because it's been so country centric and even like indie Americana, that's truly the mainstream culture. And EDM is totally secondary to that. So if people find out about us or like they end up at one of our shows, they got to want to be there, which I think is really important. You've been to a concert where half of the people don't really want to be there. You lose that passion, you lose the vibe, the fact that people can go to Broadway, they can go to other things, and then like, the really passionate people show up to our events, I think really helps.
The shows are so community based too. You often hear like your vibe attracts your tribe. That's a common phrase you hear in the EDM world. So let's hop into Deep Tropics. Can you describe the overall vibe of Deep Tropics?
We've been playing around with the statement, don't escape your reality, create your reality. I think it's a really fun but important statement that we're making surrounding our brand. With everything that we've talked about, with the timeline of club culture, electronic music, there's this connotation of escapism, like stepping into this other world to escape your BS day job, maybe a tough relationship that you're in or whatever. And it's kind of this broken concept. It's like, yeah, you can escape from it momentarily, but you still got to go back to it. Whereas if you flip that and build like a forward-thinking culture that we can truly create the reality that you want to exist in, and that you can bring that with you into your life when you leave.
Speaking of that, I mean, Deep Tropics has been praised by the New York Times and Forbes for being one of the greenest festivals in the world. Can you talk us through what that really means in practice?
There's probably a couple hours of conversation just in this space alone, so I'll try to give you the cliff notes. But just basing it off of like the positive culture that we're trying to create, it boils down to self, community, planet, and building sustainable culture, integrating all three of those things. It really is all three. If you're not taking care of yourself, obviously you can't be your best self for yourself, for your community, or your planet. And it kind of spans into community. You know, we need to be building a healthy community that supports each other and supports these ideals. And then the planet. No planet, no us. So it's really important for us to maintain all three of those things. Now to the sustainability pieces, I'm really excited about it. Blake and Joel, who I mentioned before, my business partners, they studied sustainable development at Appalachian State. They've been the driving force for a lot of the mindfulness stuff, a lot of the sustainability initiatives that we infuse into our festival. The festival itself, like when you buy an eco band, we partner with Green Disco to plant trees in Tanzania. And not only they help to offset carbon emissions, but they also are fruit-bearing trees so that they actually feed people. We aim to be completely carbon neutral, offset any carbon that's impacted by the festival itself and like the traveling of anything that comes to the festival. We make sure that all of our vendors aren't using reusable plastics. Even into like the different bars that we have a reusable cup program. So you buy this cool branded metal cup and you take that around with you to the festival. And so when we're proactively taking action on all these things, we manage our waste as well. I believe we diverted 87% of our waste last year. You walk around the festival and there's no trash. Like Bicentennial Park is an immaculate park to begin with. And we work really hard to keep it that way. I'm sure the park appreciates that. But it's really cool. You know, like a lot of people walk around without their shoes on. I brought my dog there. My wife and I just had our daughter 6 months ago, and, you know, bringing her through the park. It's just really nice to not be just walking through trash, which a lot of times at festivals exists. There's probably more to go through, but I can pause there momentarily.
This year's lineup features some huge names like Lane 8, Alice in Wonderland, which feels to me, just based off previous lineups, like you all are growing, which is great to see. But for folks who have never heard them, can you kind of describe their sound and what makes them stand out?
Well, I'm glad we touched on some of the subgenres because that'll help us in this conversation. Alice in Wonderland, she plays heavier bass music. She'll go in between dubstep. She'll play some drum and bass. She has a side project where she'll play deeper dubstep stuff. It's heavier, it's high energy, fun in moments. It's incredibly hype in moments, but she brings it together in a really exciting way. Subtronics, who's another headliner, kind of works in parallel with that, where he's kind of one of the cornerstone names in the dubstep space, especially in the American market. He's been doing a lot of stuff, like a lot of remixes of popular artists, like John Summit. So he'll have like very catchy vocals, but then spun in a very interesting, high energy way that ends up creating, you know, a pretty wild, fun environment. And those are our bass acts that are going to be on the Lotus stage. That's genre specific to more bass, dubstep, drum and bass stuff. Whereas our headliners on the Meru stage are Chris Lake and Lane 8. And they lean more into deep house, melodic house, tech house. To describe those, obviously melodic house is a bit more in your feels. It's a bit more like ethereal. It gets into more of the songwriting stuff that we've spoken about. Whereas Chris Lake with tech house, it leans more towards the beats. It's more about the groove. It's a bit higher energy, you know, and we curate all of the lineup, our headliners included, to kind of offer a bit for everybody. Our community of people, which will end up being probably about 7,000 to 8,000 people a day this year, everyone comes up feeling a little bit different, you know, like some people are maybe going through something and looking for like more of an inward journey. Some people are like stoked and ready to send it. You know, we try to offer a bit for everybody.
I think I gear more towards like the melodic artists. I'm a big Porter Robinson fan and going to see Lane 8 at Red Rocks in October. So stoked for that.
That'll be incredible.
But for our listeners, I think that's like a great entry to EDM. There's a lot of melody there and a lot of catchy hooks.
Absolutely.
I think some of our listeners would be curious to know, like, is it all DJs or are there going to be other instruments or bands on stage too?
On our main stages, it's all DJs. For the band-centric stuff, we do have a couple offerings for people that kind of lean in that direction. One band to mention is this group, Bliss Codes. They've been very involved with deep culture, which is like the sustainability and mindfulness, like that side of our festival for years now. And they do such a good job of just setting like a positive vibe, just a positive like sonic palette. They tap into some ambient stuff. They tap into some jazz, some R&B, some funk. They're such a tight band and they're just such like beautifully positive people. They're going to be playing in our Deep Culture Speakeasy, but then also they kind of are like the house band in between different workshops and smaller events that we're having in that space. So they're definitely someone to check out if you're looking for that.
Can you give us your insider advice for anyone coming to the festival this year? What are your tips, tricks, especially in terms of being good stewards of the land?
Getting involved in all of it. Come in early to see some of the local acts that are playing, because we do have 4 stages and every single person on the lineup we've intentionally put there and is incredibly talented. But then into the speakeasy, into our Prana portal, we have an Oasis spa. So you can go get like Reiki, massages, there's yoga, there's breath work. You can truly take care of yourself. You know, getting back to the create your reality, don't escape it. There's a ton of offerings that are there to support you and to help you forward. And hopefully you can leave charged up and not walking out like a zombie.
Yeah.
One thing that I hit last year that I was so deeply grateful to have hit was there was a sunset breath work that was borderline magical. There was about 50 people in the speakeasy. There was a bunch of great sets that had gone on through the day. And it was such just a nice momentary break. Everyone's in there. There's some nice ambient music. Some people are lying down. Some people are like cross-legged and just doing 30 minutes of breath work and kind of getting back centered really set everyone off in the right direction for the rest of the night. And there's a bunch of stuff like that too. There's ice baths. It is going to be incredibly hot. Drink water, take care of yourself. But there's also ice baths if you've gotten into that trend. I personally love it.
It sounds like you guys have really just thought of everything and really want to make this a special experience for everyone. So that's really cool to hear. What do you hope attendees walk away thinking or feeling after experiencing Deep Tropics?
I hope people leave feeling fulfilled, that they've met cool people, they've gotten to share incredible positive experiences with their existing friend group, their existing community. I hope that people leave having learned something, whether it's, a new dope artist, maybe it's something about one of the workshops that we have, or maybe even it's about themselves.
Well, folks, if you're listening, Deep Tropics is happening August 15th through the 16th at Bicentennial Park, so make sure to check it out. I will be there, super excited. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us today, John. We really appreciate it.
Daniel, thanks so much for having me.
Hey friends, before we go, it's time for our annual CityCast listener survey, and we'd love it if you could take a few minutes to fill it out. You can find it at citycast.fm/survey. It's quick, just about 7 minutes. Even if you took it last year, we'd be so grateful if you took it again, since we can't use last year's data anymore. And because we love you, survey takers will be entered to win a $250 Visa gift card and some sweet CityCast swag. So go to citycast.fm/survey and help us make the show even better. That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Later.